Well, good morning, everybody. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Whitburn?
Here.
Commissioner Willis? Commissioner Desmond?
Here.
Commissioner Anderson is absent. Commissioner Becker?
Here.
Commissioner White?
Present.
Commissioner McKenzie? Alternate Commissioner Von Wilpert is absent. Alternate Commissioner Drake?
Here.
Alternate Commissioner McCann?
Present.
Alternate Commissioner Browning? Alternate Commissioner Browning will vote in place of the regular member vacancy. And there is a quorum with 7 voting members present, and the meeting was called to order at 8:17.
Thank you. Commissioner Drake, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to start today's meeting by noting the passings of 2 people who contributed to our LAFCO meetings for years. Harry Mathis retired as a LAFCO commissioner at our last meeting after 3 decades of service to this organization. He previously served as chair of MTS and as a San Diego City Council member and in the U.S. Navy before that. Fortunately, we had a nice opportunity to acknowledge Harry at our March meeting. A memorial service for Harry will be held on June 7th. We also lost Vic Alavi after our last meeting. Vic operated the cameras at our LAFCO meeting since 2019. He was the executive director of Blue Barn Creative, making videos for broadcast television, nonprofit organizations, corporations, and government agencies. He was known for his warmth and his charisma, and for the many successful shows and videos that he produced. Harry was a star in front of the camera, and Vic was a star behind the camera, and both will be missed by all who loved them. Today's meeting has a number of items, so let's review the agenda. Mr. Simons, is there anything that you'd like to touch on?
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Commissioner. So no changes to the agenda itself, and that includes noting we have 3 public hearing items and a few items for discussion under the business calendar. All have held since we posted the agenda. I do want to note there are a few supplemental items on the dais. 2 relate to item 6B, which is the proposed work plan and budget, and staff will make note of those supplemental items when we get to that, and as well as 1 supplemental piece of correspondence for item 7B, the La Jolla proposal, and again, we will make further note as those items come up. So other than those clarifications, we are good to go, Chair.
All right, thank you. Let's begin with non-agenda public comment. This provides an opportunity for anyone who'd like to comment on something that is not on today's agenda but is within the purview of LAFCO. I have 1 non-agenda public comment request here in the room, and that is Jack Beebe. Please go ahead and come up to the microphone and begin your comment whenever you're ready.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Often I'm Jack Beebe, General Manager of Fallbrook Public Utility District. I haven't been here for quite a while, fortunately. Being back in this room gives me a little bit of PTSD, but I think I'm over it. That's why I took some time. When you come before LAFCO, you're there, you're here a lot when you have important applications, and then you sort of disappear. So I just wanted to take this chance, after some time's passed, to really come back and thank, the commission, both the commission and the staff. We had a couple items. One was a little more public facing than the other that were really important to our community. One was a community benefit program, where if you've been to Fallbrook, you understand how important this was for a lot of common areas in Fallbrook that were maintained by volunteers, so medians and tree trimming. And as you can imagine, it was harder and harder to get people to do those. Really important for our community, though, to actually have money to do that, because dead medians don't really highlight a community very well. So that program has been underway for several years, very successful. So far, well received in the community. The other was a little more politically contentious, which was the reorganization process. But from our perspective and in our community. That has worked very well. There's some challenges with water rates locally that a lot of people are aware of now. And I know it'll get worked out between, the Water Authority, its member agencies, Metropolitan and LAFCO plays an important role in that. But really in our community, we didn't have the time and rate base to weather it with agriculture pressures, a pretty large low-income community, a large rural old infrastructure. Those pressures really weren't going to make it through that process without some changes in our wholesale water costs. That really gave us some relief. So we're able to actually do some reductions, very moderate increases going forward, really put us on a sustainable path going forward. So I really do appreciate the work, staff did on that. This wouldn't happen without efforts, both of those without staff and the commission. And also, as a government entity, especially in utilities, it's very easy for us just to do status quo and tell people, hey, we can't do anything. But to me, it's very important that we look at opportunities, bring those forward, no matter how difficult they might be. LAFCO plays a really important role in that. And I think staff, the executive officer, and this commission really do a good job of laying those things out, hearing from all sides, and taking action. I really do appreciate, whether you were for it or against it on any of those, appreciate those efforts in the commission putting the time in on those. So I just really wanted to come here, some time out, really thank the hard work of the commission and especially, executive officer and staff on those efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beebe. Clerk, do we have any public comment virtually?
No public comment.
Okay, let's go ahead and take up the consent items then. Those are items 5A through 5G. Clerk, do we have any public comment on those consent items?
No public comments.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the consent items? We have a motion from Commissioner White. We have a second from Commissioner Becker. And Commissioner Becker, go ahead.
If I could, I just wanted to make a quick comment on 5G, the report on cities and special districts committees. I wanted to say that I really appreciate LAFCO taking the time. The cities committee was not able to meet. And so there's a lot of new city managers, I think, in a lot of the cities. But LAFCO put together a PowerPoint and sent that out about the budget, and I just think that my city manager appreciated that, and it just shows our transparency, and love to get the word out there like that. Thank you.
Very good. Any further discussion on the consent items? Seeing none, we have a motion from Commissioner White, a second from Commissioner Becker. Clerk, please call the roll on the consent items.
Commissioner Whitburn?
Yes.
Commissioner Willis? Commissioner McKenzie? Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond?
Yes.
Commissioner Browning? Yes. So there are 7 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes.
Thank you. That brings us to our public hearing items. We'll begin with item 6A, which is the annual workforce vacancy report, and we'll invite staff to present this item.
Thank you, Chair. So I will go ahead and cover what I think is going to be a short item and do so perhaps with the help of Alex if there's any detailed questions. And again, just for the record, Alex is sitting in for the busy Holly, who's off in court today, but we appreciate Alex's attendance. So what you have before you, Commission, is our inaugural report that's part of some new legislation that affects most local agencies here in California to take up the issues relating to staffing before you go ahead and adopt a final budget. So for our part, the report before you attests, among other things, that all 8 budgeted positions at LAFCO are filled. It also details, when we do have openings, the recruitment process that is involved. And then last but certainly not least, our efforts consistent with the legislation to go into some of our retention efforts. And most notably, this commission certainly has done a good job of offering competitive wages as well as flexibility for staff on scheduling and family-friendly accommodations. So everything else in the legislation that the commissioners may be more familiar with at your home agencies don't apply to this commission. given we don't have any bargaining units. So it's a relatively short report, but I presume we've hit the mark. But Chair, if you go ahead and open the hearing, and unless there's any item or discussion, we'd ask that you formally accept and file at the close of the hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Simons. The hearing is now open. Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
No public comments.
We have no public comment on that item, so we will close the public hearing and begin our commission discussion, if we have any commission discussion on this item. Seeing no commission discussion on the item, the proposed action is to receive and file the report. It is an action item. Do we have a motion? We have a motion from Vice Chair Willis, and we have a second from Commissioner Desmond. Seeing no further discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Whitburn?
Yes.
Commissioner Willis? Commissioner McKenzie? Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes?
Commissioner Desmond?
Yes.
Commissioner Browning? So there are 7 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 absent. The motion passes.
Thank you. Item 6B, another public hearing item. It is the proposed final work plan and budget for 2025-2026 and related actions, and we will again invite staff to present the item.
Thank you. We're going to pass this over to Priscilla.
Yes, thank you. And good morning, Chair Whitburn and Commissioners. Assistant Executive Officer Priscilla Mumpower on behalf of LAFCO staff. So this noticed hearing marks the final step in planning LAFCO's activities for the next fiscal year, 2025-2026. Today, staff is recommending the adoption of the resolution within your packets, which would approve, first, the final work plan, which would guide resource allocations over the next 12 months, as well as adopt a final budget, which would fund those activities. You'll recall that both documents were presented, discussed, and approved in draft form at your March meeting, which then followed a 45-day public comment period, followed with staff presenting to both your cities and special districts advisory committees. Now, while those meetings and or follow-up discussions prompted good questions and feedback, no formal comments were submitted by the committees themselves or by individual members. An outcome that we view positively, especially given the proposed increase in agency apportionments, which I will address shortly. So with that context, I'll walk through some key highlights of both documents, starting with the final work plan. So you'll see that come up within the next 3 slides. It returns to you largely unchanged, with it continuing to identify 30 projects in priority order, covering both ongoing and new efforts. You will notice, though, on the medium and lower priority slides that there is one redlined item, and that involves number 15 on the medium priority slide and number 26. So the related revisions involve a placement trade to elevate the governance study for the Oceanside Small Craft Harbor District away from priority number 26 over to priority number 15, and then moving over that UC Berkeley report and legislative proposal over to number 26. A preliminary scope of work for the Oceanside study is also included in your packet to help telegraph the focus and sequencing of the study. And this builds on comments received by the community as well as City of Oceanside City Manager Jonathan Borrego. So turning to the budget, which is summarized on this next slide, it also remains largely consistent with the March draft. The consistency is highlighted by recommending LAFCO's operating expense rise from $2.9 million to $3.2 million, and this reflects an 8.6% increase, which means about a $250,000 increase. This would support inflationary cost adjustments, a projected 3.8% COLA and merit increases, as well as consultant resources to complete the major MSRs, including the County Water Authority MSR, SANDAG, and healthcare districts. It would also help us with initiating the MSR on the San Diego Unified Port District. This said, and certainly in step with taking commission feedback in March, we recognize that the increase comes at a time where local agencies are looking to reduce their costs. And so to help minimize the impact and in line with Commission feedback from March, the apportionment increase has been further reduced to 5%, this being down from the 7.6% presented in March. And this would be accomplished by an increase in use of reserves. However, we do want to reassure that we would maintain a strong fund balance, which is projected to finish the next fiscal year at $1.3 million, or a little under 50% of operating expenses, and well above the 33% minimum set in policy. So I'll pause here, as I do want to make a verbal correction to the agenda report in addressing a material oversight in not incorporating an earlier commitment made by the Commission. So this earlier commitment ties to providing the special districts with a credit, and this would be tied to the apportionment received by the San Diego Unified Port District, which equaled $110,000, and this was not budgeted. So the result of the true-up is twofold. First, all the special districts except for the port will see a decrease in their upcoming apportionment as detailed, along with all other projected agency payments in the supplemental spreadsheet on the dais. The projected fund balance at LAFCO at the end of the next fiscal year is not the $1.4 million in the agenda report, but instead a $1.3 million. So with that noted, staff is recommending the Commission adopt the resolution as presented, with the lone exception of lowering the requested agency apportionment amount from the listed $2.292 million amount to a $2.181 million amount. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation and turn it back to Chair Whitburn to open the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mumpower. And with that, we will open the public hearing. Clerk, do we have any public comment on the item?
Are we leaning towards a Oceanside breaking off from the city? Where do we stand? Are we heading that direction as a recommendation?
Let's check first on public comment, and then we'll swing back to, yeah.
Yes, online we have Jonathan Borrego.
Oh, we have some here.
If you'd like to speak.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to address LAFCO this morning. You should have all received a copy of my comment letter that I penned in regards to this item, which was included in your packet. I want to thank LAFCO staff for meeting with us and agreeing to include the letter as part of the main packet. Just wanted to quickly reiterate a couple of points that I've made in my letter. First of all, we do support the next steps in the process with the harbor, contingent upon LAFCO hiring an industry expert who has experience in advising on matters concerning the operation and governance of publicly operated harbors comparable to the Oceanside Small Craft Harbor District. And city staff would also like to participate in the consultant selection process. We would also request that LAFCO consult with us and engage with us as the work plan and schedule are provided for the follow-up special study to make sure that there's adequate opportunity to provide for city review of any of the draft documents and participate in collaboration with LAFCO staff and the public through this process. And then finally, also want to make sure that we have an opportunity at the city to review the draft special study before it is released for public review, and agreeing to this would also address some of the concerns that we had with the recently completed Oceanside MSR. So with that, I'd like to just wrap up my comments. I did want to make one other statement. So I was reading some of the letters that were written in regards to this item, and one in particular caught my eye, and it claimed that the city would vigorously fight any sort of financial analysis of the harbor budget. Nothing could be further than the truth. We are completely open to sharing any financial information with the city's harbor and beaches advisory committee, as well as members of the public. As a matter of fact, we recently had a full presentation and invited any questions from the public regarding the harbor's financial dealings, and presented all that information along with a very detailed line by line itemized budget of the harbor operations to the community. So any thought or idea that the city would vigorously oppose any sort of a financial analysis is absolutely false. We would welcome it because we have absolutely nothing to hold back. And we're happy to share any financial information with any party at any point in this process. Thank you.
No other speakers.
Okay, let's go to speakers here in the room, and we will begin with Les George.
Good morning. As you said, my name is Les George. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Simons and Michaela for taking the time and effort to reach out to us as stakeholders, slip renters, whatever we're ready to be called this week. My name is Les George. I've been in the Oceanside Harbor for 45 years this year. I have a small business in the city of Oceanside, and I've been a member of the Harbor and Beaches Advisory Commission on and off since 2011. During this time, I've watched lots of different changes from who's providing police and fire protection, and basically what happened over the years is the city council is wearing two hats. They wear a hat as a city council, and they wear a hat as a harbor board. Some people call that a conflict of interest, and I would too. However, that was the way that the decision was made before me. At that point in time, with these decisions that are made, a lot of times when the boaters were complaining and said we had no input or anything to be able to give back, they formed a thing called the Harbor and Beaches Advisory Committee, which I'm a member of. And this committee itself, it comprises of people that are in the community, slip renters, Chamber of Commerce, a lot of different people in different parts that have some influence. A lot of them not having any real stake in the game or any monies in the game, but a lot of them that are making advisory advice to the council. During this time, I've watched lots of different things go on. Over the years, I've watched the change of who's managing. We used to have a harbor manager. Now what they've done is we have, I guess we call him a harbor manager now. He has really no input on what we're doing in the harbor. Anything that goes through the harbor district goes directly to Public Works, which is the Public Works Director is the person that makes the decisions for where us as stakeholders spend their money. I was on an ad hoc committee when when they first figured out that they were going to have a budget deficit. During this time, the Public Works Director that was there at the time basically didn't even know exactly how many slips we had. He thought we had about 350. True number is about 940 slips. So kind of we'd like to encourage, when we were reading over the report, the suggestion was made that we lean more towards a little bit of more self-governing, to have a little bit more power with the advisory committee to be able to make suggestions to city staff so that we can give them the proper information for presenting or protecting our harbor. Over the years, because the things have changed, I've done a lot of research on districts and enterprise funds. When the funds are earmarked as an enterprise fund or a district, they really aren't supposed to go here and here and here. And what we've watched over the years is that things have been basically diluted and sent to different parts of the city, including large amounts outside of the city and the beaches. Our last meeting that we had, I'll be very brief, last meeting that we had a city council member come up and chastise our board for asking questions as far as something that directly impact the beach in the city of Oceanside Harbor, which is used by many citizens and also utilized by a lot of the boaters. So we're here to advise, but right now we feel like we're hamstrung, and we'd really like to support the report for LAFCO moving forward with an independent audit, and also for looking towards more self-governance. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. George. We also have a couple of speaker slips here from George Ray and Liz Ray, if you would like to begin your remarks when you're ready.
Blake went to sleep. Good morning. My name is George Ray. I live in Oceanside. I have a slip that we've had for about 25 years in Oceanside in the harbor. Several months ago, LAFCO did an MSR of the city and including the harbor. It actually illuminated a lot of us, especially me, that things were done not with your authority or your authorization. For example, our sphere of influence went from 68 0.23 acres of the harbor, it went to about 27,000 acres, or the full beach area of the city. It also, in 2010, the city changed the status of the harbor. It went from a harbor district where we had our own employees and our own police force and everything. They changed it to what they called, and we thought it was until we talked to Michaela, a special district, where we had to use City of Oceanside unionized employees to perform all of our maintenance, administration, and police. Later on, since the police department, I was a police officer when I was very young, we're Class A, we're Type A people. We don't like to sit around and watch grass grow. Well, they got bored, so we didn't get a whole lot done with the police department, so we changed and went to the lifeguards. Since this happened in 2022, we actually have our police force there is non-existent. We've had gangs on the beach using bats against each other. We've had children sitting at the restaurants on the side in the harbor where people go up and attack and assault the children. We've had people leave their boats to go to the bathrooms and they're assaulted because the people wanted, non-harbor people want to get into the bathrooms. There are bathrooms there. The city of Oceanside, as Les George said, they're not really out looking out for the harbor. They're looking out for the city of Oceanside. For example, the slip rent, the city actually negotiates with the commercial that is not included in our budget. They also negotiate with the other businesses, and we don't get any money from that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Liz Ray.
Good morning. My name is Liz Ray. I've been a resident of Oceanside since 1999. I've slip rented since 2000. I'm just here to say thank you to LAFCO for all the work efforts you have put forth to finally have somebody listen to our concerns. Since I've been in the harbor, I have been yelling, screaming, and shouting, and nobody gave two hoots of what's going on in our harbor. The one thing I want to make sure everybody understands is that we are an enterprise fund. An enterprise fund means that every dime that is needed to run that harbor, we have to generate by slip rent, leases, some of the parking ticket revenue, and some of the parking revenue itself. One other thing that I would want to really strongly recommend is, remember, we are beach, harbor and beach. It should not be beaches. Beaches entails everything outside of the harbor. That means our enterprise funds go outside of the harbor to maintain those beaches. We will never be in the black if we keep doing this. Right now, the city says we are running in the red. Well, of course we're running in the red. We have to run in the red because we don't have the funds for plowing, for cleaning up the strand, for making 2 walkways, for new bathrooms, which most of that comes out of the harbor's enterprise fund. Please be aware that this is an enterprise fund. Please be aware that we are not there to support all of the beaches in Oceanside. Oceanside should come to bat and say, those beaches are ours. We will take whatever we have to do to maintain those beaches, not put it on the burden of the harbor's enterprise fund. I would also strongly recommend that we are now, from the advisory committee, be called Harbor and Beach. We don't have a say-so what goes down on the strand. Things that go down on the strand, we don't know about until they are completed. It's very irritating. We're saying, then why do we even exist? Thank heaven that the people who first wrote the first lease said that they needed an advisory council for the city. The Harbors and Beach was formed, not harbors and beaches. Let the beaches go by themselves. Let somebody else take care of it. And we have to get away from Public Works. Public Works does wonderful for replacing stuff on the streets. They don't know how to run a harbor. It's just that simple. We have a staff. We have a harbor master who should be a harbor master who came from San Diego, where he was a harbor master in 2 harbors down here. We have to go back to the basics. We have to go back and be harbors and beach. We have to control our destiny and not be under the control of Public Works and people who don't care. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ray. Seeing no further public commenters, we will close the public hearing and we will begin our commission discussion. Vice Chair Willis, did you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just trying to get an idea where we stood on studies coming up. So that answered the question.
Okay.
Priscilla.
Can you please repeat the question? I'm so sorry.
I was just trying to get an idea of where we were with the study on the harbor breaking off on their own.
From the harbor breaking off from the city of Oceanside. So at the March meeting, discussion from the commission was for us to return with a preliminary scope of work. So we have that within your agenda packets. And the thought is that we would elevate the governance study from low to medium priority. And in proceeding forward with the special study, we would focus in on financial and governance analysis as part of this next fiscal year.
Terry, could you speak into the microphone, pretty please?
When will we get to a point where we vote on this issue?
That's a great question that I'm going to defer over to Keene.
Thank you. So, Commissioner Willis, and for the benefit of the public too, starting on page 119 of the packet is the preliminary scope of work that we've outlined on this. And so, based on some notional expectations, we would assume that in December 2026, we'd bring you a draft and final report on this item. Now, it is, as Priscilla mentioned, been proposed to go from in March, we had it as a low priority, now to a medium priority. So what that means is if anything's in our low priority, which is 20 to 30, what we are saying to the commission is if we have the ability to get to it, we will, but no promises. But by moving it into the medium priority, we are committing that we are going to get work underway on this. But, it's not necessarily expected to be completed in the fiscal year. So we think December 2026 is a reasonable time estimate. As Priscilla also mentioned, 26.
Not this year.
So part of this is, and as City Manager Borrego mentioned and as incorporated into our preliminary scope of work, there's going to be a process to get stakeholders together. There's going to be a process to convene those stakeholders and find a consultant who is familiar with this type of size district to provide technical support to your staff. All of which leads us to say December 2026 is an appropriate expectation. If we can get to it faster, we would, or we will. But just to manage expectations, that's our line of sight as of today.
All right. Let's go to Commissioner Desmond. Also, this is an action item, so we'll need a motion at some point here. Commissioner Desmond.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate all the work that's being done on this. And the Oceanside MSR really kind of brought this to light and started unraveling this for us. So people don't want MSRs or are afraid of them, but unfortunately, it digs up these kind of things that need attention. I will say when I was the mayor of San Marcos, we also wore many hats besides just the city. We were the special, I think for the fire district, we also wore that hat as well. But I think we kept the monies separate, or we didn't have these types of issues. So I'm glad to see this special study has moved up to item 15. And it's good to hear that both the citizens or the residents or the slip holders and the city, for Mr. Borrego, want to work together on this. So So I know December 26th seems like years from now, it's quite a long period of time, but I think engagement of the people during that process, instead of just waiting and sitting around for them to wait for the final draft to come out, in that period of time, I think engaging both sides is going to be helpful, and going through that process so that nobody's just sitting around waiting and then seeing what happens and saying, oh my gosh, what is this? So I appreciate everybody coming down and hopefully working through this. And I'm glad, even though it's item 15, it's still going to be working. It's still going to be happening concurrently, but then starting in the next few months. So thanks.
I guess my concern is with all this reports of violence going on, to me, that's a very long time before we get a chance to vote on this. That's my concern.
Okay. Thank you, Vice Chair Willis. Thank you, Commissioner Desmond. Let's go to Commissioner McKenzie.
Yeah, I'm just looking for clarification on what this study is really going to be. On your retain outside consultants, it seems like a lot of this is where the money went and where how much they're putting in and what they're getting out. I don't know how their books run, but this sounds like something that the auditor themselves should be able to come up with, maybe the last 2 years of what's going on money-wise, because they would be looking at where the money goes. So that might be one of your consultants, and I don't know what other type of consultant you would have, but my real comment is we do this study and we come up with recommendations that you become a special district, that they do this, and the next 19 things. How and where do we go from there? We have this study that tells us what has been happening and what should happen. So how do we get to the end?
Yeah, so we are presupposing that the end for LAFCO is to inform all decision makers, and in particular the community, as to whether it is viable to take a shot at independence. Part of this may be validating that, flaws and all, that the baseline is the best option available given the local conditions. So what we propose when we issue a draft report and a final report is to use it as an informing tool, first and foremost, to the community to understand what LAFCO believes to be their option. And if that option does include going independent, well, then outlining what the steps and thresholds are. We are not assuming that the commission itself would take action to initiate that type of reorganization. We want to hand off the informing document to both the community and the city and then let them respond. But I think that is consistent with what we have heard from the past in terms of the commission wanting us to inform the discussion but not put a hand on the scale itself.
I'm just concerned that this voluminous report's just going to sit somewhere.
Possible, but by virtue of the MSR you just signed off on, we have tangible outcomes occurring. So recent history suggests it will be off and running and not on a shelf.
Hopefully. I have other questions. Do you want to take them? How do you want to handle this?
Feel free to continue with your questions.
Well, I have questions regarding the back onto the budget itself, and I know that at the last meeting, I had asked that, and I'm assuming that professional services is professional services. All of our consultants coming in, our auditors and so forth, and I had asked for a breakout on that rather than lumping it, because we've gone up, another $100,000. So I'd like to know, I'd like to see the breakout. We know that the auditor, we know it's about $20-some thousand, but I don't know where and who all of the other consultants coming in is anticipated. And then on memberships, in following in another item later, there's the issue of CALAFCO dues, and it looks like that's a $13,000 drop, but I don't see it really in this line item. So I don't know what other memberships are in that 30-some thousand dollars. Those my questions.
Thank you, Commissioner McKenzie, and my apologies. Your comments have triggered a memory, and so we do owe you that breakdown of what goes into the professional services. Broad strokes, that is your legal cost, that is your consultant use for intergovernmental, and then all of the MSR work. And then there are some back office professional services that we have, contracts that go into providing support. For example, Blue Barn is one of those. Anytime we bring in a vendor for more than one usage, we couch them under professional services. But I will commit to bringing you that at the next meeting. With respect to memberships, you're correct. So we are not included in CALAFCO at the start of the fiscal year. However, consistent with what your staff took as your direction, we kept the CALAFCO membership costs in the budget in the event things turn in a positive note and we would rejoin at some point during the fiscal year. So as a contingency, we left that money in there in the event this commission and your staff believe that changes have been made and we can come back to CALAFCO. And again, I took that as the commission's direction.
So are you proposing then to put that $10,000 for our group into that? Is that included?
Yes, that's included.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner McKenzie. Thank you, Mr. Simons. Commissioner Drake.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Whitburn. I've got to agree with Barry Willis, Commissioner Willis, that the harbor is in some distress, obviously, and is there any relief that could be applied right now? And to my knowledge, and Counsel Alex could slap me upside the head, but there was an appellate court decision called the Bighorn decision, which limited the ability of cities to allocate more than 24% of an enterprise account into their other purposes. So 75% of it right now should be going to the benefit of the harbor directly. And that should be an immediate relief separate from LAFCO. And I don't know what's going on or what can happen. I worry for waiting 18 months from now or more to come up with that decision will mean a lot of damage to the harbor in that time. So I guess my general comment is maybe they need to seek some injunctive relief or something on the embezzlement level. And it's kind of separate from us. No further comment needed. But also I want to agree with Joe McKenzie. If we make changes in our regional relationships, we need to think about the vision and mission of what we're doing. Why are we at CALAFCO? Why would we at Southern California CALAFCO? And are we answering and asking the right questions before we join something like that? And I'm sure you're familiar with that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Drake. Vice Chair Willis.
I do have a follow-up question. George, have they discussed bringing back the police, or are they just keeping the lifeguards there? Do you know? They have not discussed it. Okay. Thank you.
Too expensive.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Desmond.
Real quick comment. I do see in the government and benchmarking and as part of the plan to look at public safety services, including police, fire, as life and security. I mean, if the city of Oceanside took over or the lifeguards or whoever is policing that area needs to up their game, and I think that's going to be more on the city of Oceanside at this point in time to do that. But I'm glad to see it is part of the government. Maybe it's item number 4 that doesn't start till like July 2026. Maybe that gets moved up and we can start looking at the safety issues a little bit sooner than July of 2026 as we start the report.
Thank you, Commissioner Desmond. Commissioner McKenzie.
I just have a rhetorical comment that if this is an enterprise fund, the audit should show it as a separate entity. It should not be mixed in with all the other revenue and the ins and the outs of a city's expenditures. But I'm not an auditor and I'm not an accountant, but it seems logical that should be a totally separate item that would be accessible that somebody could read in an audit. don't know where we go from there, but that's just my rhetorical comment.
Okay. There is considerable commission interest in this item. We could ask staff to provide quarterly updates to us on where things are at, if that would be something that the commission would be interested in giving direction to staff to do that. Vice Chair Willis.
Yes, I would just like to say that I would like to see this. You're saying it's a medium priority, Keen? You're saying
This is currently as a medium priority.
I would like to see this issue brought up as a much higher priority. Start moving it up in the schedule. This is not being, it needs to get resolved, in my opinion. So I will be voting for this budget, but I want to see this Oceanside issue moved up as a higher priority. Thank you.
It is currently listed as item 15 in the medium priorities under the current status of things. Mr. Simons, what would be involved in adjusting the priority? Is that something that we would want to explore at this point, or what's your perspective on that?
Thank you, Chair. So I certainly hear Commissioner Willis. The challenge for your staff is you've already have a pretty set high priority list of projects. And so we would want to perhaps have the benefit of talking not only among staff, but each one of your high priority projects have stakeholders involved. So if agreeable, perhaps a solution would be proceed with the proposed work plan as presented today and give staff the opportunity to consider options, but to do that with stakeholder feedback and come back to you as early as your next meeting and see if that point with some informative comments from those on staff and elsewhere, your options. I just worry that right now, if we were to move things around to advance this to a high priority, we may be doing ourselves a disservice in terms of managing expectations.
Thank you, Mr. Simons. All right, this is an action item. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion then to adopt the work plan and budget as proposed with direction to staff to provide at a minimum quarterly updates on item 15, which is the special study on the Oceanside SCHD, and to consider potential opportunities to move it up as a priority. Any further discussion on the motion? Commissioner McKenzie.
I'll second it, and then with just further discussion. When we're talking about moving things around, I think, staff does a great job of keeping things in line, but this seems to be very important, and I do see that item 8 is a white paper on homelessness, that we're going to consolidate all of the other reports within the county and come up with one paper. I think this item could be moved up. So just direction, and basically that was what your motion was, is to look to where we can move this further up in their work plan, in their daily work. And I would rather move the white paper down and this Oceanside issue up to the number 8. So that's my comment. It flows in with what your motion was.
Thank you, Commissioner McKenzie. I will, in full transparency, point out that I advocated for the white paper on homeless services.
Which is more important?
Well, we have people dying out there, and it's an issue that representing downtown San Diego is at the top of my list. So I would like to see if this commission, if you can be influential in helping to solve that humanitarian crisis that's out there, and that's why I requested that we have that high on the list.
And we're
Okay.
Direction, staff, get it moving.
All right. All right. So we have a motion that I brought forward, seconded by Commissioner McKenzie, to adopt the work plan and budget as proposed, with direction to staff to provide at a minimum quarterly updates on item 15, which is the special study Oceanside SCHD, and also keep the commission updated on any potential opportunities to move that up as a priority. Seeing no further discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Whitburn?
Yes.
Commissioner Willis?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond?
Yes.
Commissioner Browning?
Yes.
There are 7 in favor, 0 opposed, with 1 absent. The motion passes.
Thank you, clerk. Good discussion, everyone. All right, let's move to item 6C, which is the proposed Cavanaugh-Linda Vista Drive change of organization. For this one, let me ask if we have any commissioner disclosures of ex parte communications on this item. Seeing none, let's ask staff to present the item.
Thank you, and we'll ask Joelle to start us off.
Hi, good morning, Commissioners, Chair Whitburn, and fellow Commissioners. Joelle Barilla, Analyst 1, and for the record and on behalf of staff, the item before you is the proposed Cavanaugh-Linda Vista Drive change of organization. So this proposal was initiated by landowner petition and requests Commission approval to annex approximately 1 acre of undeveloped incorporated territory within the city of San Marcos to the Vallecitos Water District for wastewater services. The annexation necessitates a conforming sphere amendment to the district's sphere of influence, triggering a notice public hearing under LAFCO statute. So the timing of this request ties to the landowner's plans to develop the subject parcel with 1 single-family residence, approximately 1,620 square feet, and a 768 square foot detached garage, as allowed under the City of San Marcos's rural residential estate zoning classification. So here, as shown on the screen, the subject parcel is immediately adjacent to Vallecitos Water District's boundary and outside of its existing sphere of influence designation. LAFCO staff has independently confirmed that Vallecitos Water District can readily serve the proposed development without expanding public infrastructure. An existing Vallecitos Water District wastewater main is located immediately adjacent to the parcel within the public right-of-way on Linda Vista Drive, just seen here south of the parcel. LAFCO staff analysis and otherwise certainty in service impacts also leads staff to believe that it would be appropriate for the Commission to proceed without a new municipal service review to inform the sphere of amendment to Vallecitos Water District that would otherwise be required under policy L106, given the limited scope of service impacts associated with the expansion. So this brings us to the set of recommendations for the proposal, which are summarized on the screen with 4 headline groupings. So first is a recommendation to approve the proposal with a conforming sphere amendment. Second is a recommendation to waive protest proceedings under Government Code Section 56662. Third is a recommendation to waive Policy 106 due to the limited scope of sphere amendment. And fourth, find the project exempt under CEQA. Finally, and as further detailed in the agenda report, the proposal does not include, nor is it conditioned upon, detachment from Vista Irrigation District, the current water service provider. While overlapping service areas are generally discouraged, staff is deferring to the consensus reached between Vallecitos and Vista and their respective support for this arrangement. So this concludes my presentation. I welcome any questions from the Commission, and I'll turn it back to Chair Whitburn.
Thank you for the presentation. All right, clerk, let's open the hearing. Do we have any public comment on this item?
No public comments.
All right, given that, we will close the hearing. We will begin our commission discussion, if there is any. And we'll begin with Commissioner Desmond.
Move to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve. We have a second from Commissioner White. Seeing no further discussion, the proposed action is to adopt the staff recommendation. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Whitburn?
Yes.
Commissioner Willis?
Aye.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Aye.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond?
Yes.
Commissioner Browning?
Yes.
There's 7 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion, with 1 absent, the motion passes.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to our business calendar, and we're going to begin with item 7A. That is the proposed policy on financial accounting and internal controls, and we'll ask staff to present this item.
Priscilla, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Once again, Assistant Executive Officer Priscilla Mumpower for the record on behalf of staff. Today, we're bringing back a proposed final policy on financial accounting and internal controls, which is being proposed as Fiscal Policy 102. You'll recall this policy was first introduced in draft form in March and was developed as part of our adopted work plan. It incorporates recommendations from LAFCO's outside auditor, O'Connor and Associates, and builds on San Diego LAFCO's existing practices while also drawing from best practices observed from other similarly sized agencies. So today, the final policy builds on this earlier draft and is structured around 12 policy provisions, as noted up on your screen. Now you'll see a new provision up in red, which reflects a new addition, which I'll address shortly. So before tackling that change, I'll provide a quick overview of the key policy provisions that have remained since our initial discussion in March. The policy continues to directly address the noted recommendations by the auditor by establishing a threshold of $7,500 for capital assets with a useful life of 3 or more years, subject to annual depreciation. It also addresses lease capitalization by setting a threshold of $40,000 for lease liabilities and right-to-use assets. The policy also continues to formalize existing practices while incorporating other best practices, and these include those up on the screen. And I'll briefly note, including delegating day-to-day financial oversight to the executive officer, maintaining fund balance procedures per Fiscal Policy F101, continuing to use the County of San Diego as LAFCO's primary depository, permitting commercial bank accounts capped at 15%, requiring that payments over $15,000 be processed through the county while smaller payments be handled by LAFCO staff, and assigning investigative duties involving suspected fraud to either the executive officer or commissional counsel with a notification to the chair. The section on investment policy remains a placeholder, though we will anticipate bringing it forward at a later date for formalization. So turning your attention to that one notable addition since the presentation in March, it involves a provision establishing procedures for managing LAFCO-owned surplus property, ensuring transparent handling of items like office furniture, equipment, and appliances. So specifically, the policy now says that the executive officer may approve donations or sales at less than fair market value when the estimated value is $10,000 or less. Items valued at above $10,000 would require commission approval. Unsuitable or unsellable items may be scrapped or donated to qualified charitable organizations as an alternative to disposal, with all transactions being documented, including item descriptions, estimated values, recipients, and transfer dates. So a redlined version of the policy reflecting these changes noted are provided within Attachment 1. So with that, I will conclude, and staff is recommending your approval. I'll turn it back to Chair Whitburn. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mumpower. Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
No public comment.
All right, we will open this up for commission discussion if there is any, and we will accept any motions to approve the proposed policy if there are any. We have a motion from, yes, we have a question from Vice Chair Willis.
The $15,000 level, is that standard accounting procedure, or how are we getting, where are we getting that figure?
I'll defer to Keen for other details, but I believe the $15,000 is just existing practice.
Correct. So it's just, this is where your discretion comes into play, Commission. 15,000 seemed like a reasonable number to give staff the ability to transact kind of small vendor payments through the commercial credit lines. But, anything above that would need to go through the county.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll make a motion we approve.
Okay, we have a motion from Vice Chair Willis to approve the staff recommendation. We'll go to Commissioner McKenzie.
On the same line, I just have a question. What equipment and do we have that's over 10,000? I thought basically that, everything was under 10,000 that we had there in the office, unless we purchased the copy machine.
That is correct, which kind of helps explain how we got to the 10,000 as being the benchmark, meaning unless in the future this commission takes on a notable asset, for example, a car. Right now, the car we have is a lease. Well, so I actually would have to defer to an auditor if whether that would qualify if we got rid of our leased car. But nevertheless, right now, you've got desks, chairs, bookcases, computer equipment, things of this nature. The 10,000 mark, if I'm correct, Priscilla, and for the most part, all of the red line surplus property language we've added, I think mirrors what the County of San Diego has. So it made sense to use that, and the fact that it syncs up to the fact that we don't really have anything over 10,000 just makes it that much easier for staff.
That's what I assumed in reading this.
Thank you, Commissioner McKenzie. All right, I'll go ahead and second the motion. We have a motion from Vice Chair Willis that I have seconded to adopt the staff recommendation. Seeing no further discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Whitburn?
Yes.
Commissioner Willis?
Aye.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond?
Yes.
Commissioner Browning?
Yes.
7 in favor, 0 opposed, with 1 absent. The motion passes.
Thank you, clerk. That takes us to item 7B, which is the La Jolla Incorporation proposal. This is an informational item. Let's hear the staff presentation on this item.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm going to go ahead and cover this item. Certainly might draw on Priscilla or Michaela and or Alex to help with questions. I also want to make reference to all of you should have the aforementioned supplemental communication that staff had with the mayor's office. Also want to acknowledge up front we have representatives both from the Association to Incorporate La Jolla, Trace Wilson, Paula D'Souza, and I saw Diane Kane earlier, and then we also have Dion Akers with the mayor's office who may be here to listen, but perhaps also offer some comments as well. So this is a planned update for the commission to get you fully up to speed on the proposal to incorporate La Jolla, which of course also means to detach concurrently a rather sizable neighborhood of the city of San Diego. And want to acknowledge that the proponents met a rather significant milestone last week, which was from staff's validation, having their petition meet the 25% threshold in LAFCO statute relative to the number of voters who signed their petition, again, in contrast to all registered voters within La Jolla area, which was about 6,750, being the 25% marker. And so in reaching that rather significant milestone, a couple of things are now in motion. First and foremost, there is now some relative certainty, commissioners, that this idea of incorporation, which has been in the back burner for a couple of years now, well, now with some certainty, the question ultimately will get to this commission on the dais at some later date. It also means that now staff is required to meet some statutory deadlines and timelines in procedural issues. One of those big procedural issues is to go forward with preparing a comprehensive fiscal analysis for the proposal. And so as we have telegraphed to the proponents and to the city of San Diego from day one, should we get to this point that we have now arrived, it has always been our plan to go ahead and use an outside consultant, a consultant that would be selected by LAFCO, but not nonetheless paid by the proponents. It's going to be a big lift for that consultant because any incorporation is complicated. An incorporation in which you are also dealing with the net revenue neutrality clause that is in statute as of 1992, and as a result of the Board of Supervisors getting successful legislation passed, which means you can't go forward with an incorporation unless this commission attests that there is a no harm provision for any affected agencies. It's reasonable for me to suggest to the commission and the public it's going to be probably a good year before we get a complete draft comprehensive fiscal analysis. And again, that document's going to, among other things, inform you as to whether you believe the city of La Jolla can be self-sufficient, with all sorts of assumptions that go into that, and then concurrently what, if any, mitigation or alimony is warranted to the city of San Diego, at least for the first 3 years. That's the statutory framework that you provide affected agencies some guarantee of being financially whole for at least 3 years. Commission may look at an extended number or time period when the time comes. So given I don't anticipate providing another update on this proposal for some time, since there's going to be quite a bit of work going on in the background, I did also want to take the opportunity to kind of address some procedural issues in how we got here. And in particular, there's been some concerns voiced by the City of San Diego. And again, Mr. Akers is here on behalf of the Mayor's Office with respect to your staff's decision last week to validate the petition and issue a certificate of sufficiency. That is the content of the letter that you have before you, but I wanted to drill down on some points for the benefit of ultimately confirming that your staff believes all is good and that we are proceeding appropriately under statute. But first and foremost, Commission and public, keep in mind that petitions for jurisdictional changes come within the framework in statutory provisions of LAFCO statute in California, government code. So LAFCO statute calls the day with respect to how we go about this process. Consistent with those statutory provisions, Commission, your staff deferred and asked the ROV several months back to perform an initial review of the petition. And just for the benefit of completeness, there was essentially a two-part petition. There was a petition that was generated over a 6-month period, and then there was a supplemental petition that was generated over a 15-day window. Those petitions, combined petition, was delivered to the ROV at staff's request for their review, and in particular, their review of looking at matching signatures within the La Jolla community. At the end of the ROV's process, they concluded that the proponents had fallen 218 validated signatures short of this 25% threshold that I had referenced earlier. As allowed under statute, the proponents reviewed the results of the initial ROV review, and as allowed, proceeded to challenge many of those decisions. The challenge was always going to be heard by LAFCO staff. LAFCO never conceded or gave up its ultimate responsibility in statute to determine if the petition met or did not meet the mark. And in taking up the challenge, your staff went by our legislative prompt under a particular code section, again detailed in your letter, that says, among other things, so long as he or she signs and dates their petition, all that is needed is sufficient information provided or otherwise designated to reasonably, and that's the phrase, reasonably ascertain that he or she lives within the proposed affected territory. So that is a rather broad and inclusive way that LAFCO statute provides petitions be reviewed. That is then the prompt for your staff to have spent quite a bit of time over the last week in ultimately resurrecting, if you will, in approving 240 petition signatures that had been previously put aside by the ROV. I want to emphasize that all 240 validations that staff did had been pre-screened by the ROV. So we know that the signatures were correct and on file. It was just a question of other defects as flagged by the ROV, whether LAFCO could look at those defects and make the conclusion that there's reasonable information to say he or she is who they are and this is where they live. And there were 3 buckets, for the most part, that went into that 240 acceptance. You had the issue of legibility, right? There were a number of petitions the ROV looked at, couldn't necessarily make hay on. Your staff and no less than 2 sets of LAFCO staff looked at this. We were able to reconcile and say, yes, we can make this out. May not have been perfect handwriting, but we could make it out. The other issue was incompleteness in terms of abbreviations. A number of petitioners wrote abbreviations for their street names. Your staff was able to reasonably conclude that AV was short for Avadia or CMT was short for Caminita, so on and so forth. Again, everything else was checking out. And then finally, there was issue about some misspellings in street names. Not being the best speller myself, I could understand. And given the rest of the information was checking out, your staff believes that the statutory threshold for us was met. That's how we got to where we went last week with issuing the certificate of sufficiency. I appreciate, and speaking directly to Mr. Akers, that this is a unique process. It's a complex proposal, and I get that on the appearance it looked odd that LAFCO was doing something in contradiction to the ROV. I hope that this letter and my articulation and answering any questions you may have attests that this was a continuation of the process. The ROV had a step in the process. LAFCO had a second step in the process, and that's how we got to the certificate of sufficiency. So I'd be happy to address any questions you may have about the procedures. Be happy to address any procedure questions to come forward. The only thing we should be mindful of is not to speak to the merits of the proposal itself, given it's many moons away from actually getting to you in that form. So thank you, Chair, for that indulgence.
Thank you, Mr. Simons. All right, let's open it up to public comment, and we will begin with Dion Akers, who is here representing San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria. Mr. Akers.
Good morning, Chair Whitman, Commissioners, staff. Thank you so much for the time, opportunity to be here. As Mr. Simons mentioned, we've been in communication about this, and I'm just going to here make some prepared comments. On April 30th, 2025, the City of San Diego issued a formal letter of objection in response to LAFCO's notice of sufficiency certification for the Association of the City of La Jolla's petition regarding the incorporation of the community of La Jolla and concurrent detachment for the City of San Diego. In this letter, the city outlines its objections to LAFCO's notice of sufficiency. And late Friday, we received a written communication from LAFCO's executive officer in response to the city's questions outlined in the objection, and we thank you, staff, for your timely and complete response. The city is reviewing LAFCO's response and will likely have further questions and concerns from this written communication. Respectfully, the city continues to object to LAFCO's overruling of the Registrar of Voters certification of insufficiency, and we'll continue to communicate and follow up on this issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Akers. Clerk, do we have any virtual public comment on this item?
No public comments.
Okay. Seeing no public comment, we will open it up to commissioner discussion. Again, this is an informational item, so no motion is necessary, and we'll begin with Commissioner Becker.
Yeah, I had a question for the process for the City of San Diego. What are the next steps for City of San Diego? Do they have options of lawsuits and different things like that, or what are the, is that written in our statute, what the procedure is for objecting?
Well, with respect to lawsuits, they can always file a lawsuit objecting to the procedure. That's something they can avail themselves of. But in terms of procedurally, I leave it to staff with respect to what the applicants can do next.
So as I mentioned, and as Alex said, so the City of San Diego may or may not pursue options outside of the procedures of LAFCO statute in terms of how the administrative review goes. But we have some immediate duties that within the next 30 days, we need to formally provide the proponents an acknowledgement letter and outline what specific issues need to be addressed before this goes to the commission. And it's going to be a lengthy letter, and of course it will include the comprehensive fiscal analysis, among other things. While I assume parenthetically that the city will consider its options, the city also has an active role in this administrative review. And they've already been active in the administrative review in the sense that they helped the proponents prepare the preliminary CFA, which is attached to your document, that document that ultimately presumes that La Jolla would be up by $0.5 million a year in its general fund after making about an $8 million a year alimony payment to the City of San Diego. So the City of San Diego is going to be actively assisting in providing data on all sorts of service issues. And then your staff's main activity, in addition to overseeing the outside consultant, is heading up negotiations between the proponents team and the City of San Diego with respect to making some informed assumptions. For example, there are a lot of water and sewer lines underneath the city or underneath La Jolla. Ultimately, there needs to be not an accounting book value, but a real value placed on what that infrastructure value is. Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it a wash? The facilities, the library, substations. There's all these discussions that the City of San Diego will be innately part of to inform ultimately that core question. Can the City of La Jolla be self-sufficient, and what, if any, alimony needs to be paid to the city for a period of time? So lots of stuff.
Yeah, I understand the other stuff that's going to go on. I just wondered if there was something in the statute, and I guess they're aware of what their options are, and I just wanted to make sure that they had known that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Becker. Any further commissioner comment on the item? Commissioner Desmond.
All right, I'll bite. Keen. If it takes that long to explain something, you wish we would have taken a different path. I mean, and I realize by code we are the arbiter of valid signatures or not. But the fact that you gave it to the ROV, I think it would have been cleaner not to do that. Just thinking, and I'm Monday morning quarterbacking, but it would be cleaner not to do that. And if we had, because right now it gives the appearance, not it did happen, that LAFCO's got its finger on the scale, one side or the other, by doing that. So I think it had, going to the RFE, I'm not trying to create any lawsuits, but let's think these things through before we put another government, whenever you put another government agency in a process, it just muddies things up. So if we had that authority to do it, we should have, in my opinion, we should have just done it. And so I know you get to make those decisions, but and it was probably a honest decision to say, hey, let's have the ROV look at this. Okay, but then you got to think, well, if they come back and it's, what do we do if, in the case it does or does not make the count that it needed, well, then what do we do? To me, it gives us a little bit of a black eye and muddied the water. So I'd appreciate it if we kind of think those things through in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Desmond. Any further commissioner discussion? Vice Chair Willis.
Yes, I was just wondering. I just don't understand. Let's just make this statement. If it's revenue neutral for the city of La Jolla to break off on its own, and they can I'm sure they're quite capable of taking care of their own fire and the police department. Why would the city and the city of San Diego is going to get some kind of economic benefit? Why would they be opposed to this? I'm just trying to, what has the city of San Diego said that they're so opposed to this? I'd just like someone to explain it to me.
Thank you, Vice Chair Willis. Any further commissioner discussion? Seeing none, there is no motion necessary on this item. That is an informational item. That takes us to item 7C, which is a memorandum of understanding with Los Angeles, Orange, and San Bernardino LAFCOs for continuing education and legislative support services. This is another informational item, and we will invite staff to present the item.
Thank you, Chair. So very quickly, and we somewhat referenced it earlier by way of Commissioner McKenzie's comments. So this LAFCO has decided not to renew its membership for CALAFCO for the upcoming fiscal year. But as this commission had provided some salient feedback a few months back when that discussion was underway, your staff took that input and worked with a few other regional LAFCOs, as mentioned, Los Angeles, Orange, and San Bernardino, to kind of create a successor agency specific to backfilling some basic continued education, training, and legislative advocacy support services. It comes with a commitment to contribute up to $10,000. So it's not a membership, but it's a commitment from the LAFCOs to share in the cost of like services. And I would imagine perhaps the most significant would be should we not rejoin CALAFCO, and I think that decision would certainly be made by the end of the calendar year, this successor group would look to put on our own kind of networking training conference probably in the beginning of the new calendar year, and we would collectively share in that cost. So this is just for information, but I wanted to follow up per the Commission's interest when this came up again a few months ago that we do have a game plan. So if there are questions, I'd be happy to address those.
Thank you, Mr. Simons. Do we have any public comment on this item?
No public comment.
Okay, we have no public comment on this item, but we do have commissioner comment. Vice Chair Willis.
Again. Do we have any indication that CALAFCO is going to get their act together? How about just a brazen question like that?
I like the brazen question. I like it.
I didn't hear the last part of your comment.
I say, is CALAFCO going to get their act together in terms of being more open and transparent and responsive to us?
So
where does it stand?
So Commissioner Willis, just for the benefit, I do think CALAFCO has pivoted. They have an interim executive officer, Jose Henriquez, who's the Sacramento EO, who's doing a very good job of trying to get the organization back on track. But the reality is there are systemic problems with the board, as we discussed. So we will continue to pay attention, but right now, not just ourselves, but Los Angeles, Orange, and San Bernardino are all resolute that CALAFCO is not right now a good use of our resources.
Thank you, Mr. Simons. Commissioner McKenzie.
Claire, I have a lot of comments, but on the one to drop out of CALAFCO, are you saying that it comes back to the commission for a yes or no vote, an up or down, or is that going to be your decision?
So by way of policy, it would be the executive officer's decision. But as you could see here, Commissioner McKenzie, I am paying attention to the inputs.
Well, if I may, through the chair.
Yes, please proceed.
There was a Southern region meeting back in December, and basically the comments were, well, first of all, the executive officer, Carolyn Emery from Orange County, she resigned, quit, retired. So they have an interim, but he's been the assistant, so that's yeah. But yes, do agree, and I think I brought this up way back when, the board is dysfunctional because you have people on the board that are on the board. They may show up and they may not show up. Derek, I can't remember his last name, but he is the chair this year of the Southern Region. So he kind of gave me an overview. They had a strategic planning session, a 2-day planning session, and this was conducted by the previous executive officer, Pamela Miller. She had a totally different method of leadership versus the last one, Renee LaRoche. What they came up with was the simple fact that we have a 16-member board, and there were 7 at the strategic planning session the first day and 8 the next day. One of the board members got so upset at something Derek didn't say that he got up and left. They coaxed him back into the room, and he sat at a separate table. When he said that, it just reminded me of 3rd grade. You did something, you're not going to be with the rest of the group. You go sit over there because we still want you to know what's going on. And until we get leadership on the board, it's going to be dysfunctional. Like any other, how many city councils do you see that no one is participating? They may show up for this committee meeting and they may not show up. It's the leadership that they don't have within the board. And until that changes, and they are making changes, they have made policy changes, and I did speak at length with one of their new members, and if you had another 15 like her, we wouldn't be having this discussion now. So, I don't think you can correct anything or get your comments, your concerns, your wants, and your needs validated and for them to work on from the outside. They're just still going to go with those 16 going around and around and around, not knowing what they're doing or wanting to know. Because when you have less than half of a board showing up for a strategic planning session, that's, I'm sorry, pathetic. So I would like to have this come back, and I'm sorry it came, but I think this needs to be something that really needs to be discussed because I don't think you're going to get what we want from being on the outside looking in. We need leadership on the inside, and I don't think we have it. Especially when we have the mayor, who represents the cities from our regions, saying that she just has better things to do with her time. So my question is, then why are you on the board? So that kind of gives you kind of a background of what the discussion was at that particular meeting. So.
Thank you.
I'd still like to have the input as to whether or not, because what I see is this becoming a mini CALAFCO. But we don't have Riverside in here, and we don't have Imperial, and it was my understanding that Ventura was interested in, something like this also. Thus ends my report.
Thank you, Commissioner McKenzie. Any further commissioner comment? Commissioner Drake.
Yeah, I think the one thing when you're dealing with a regional agency like CALAFCO and you're a member agency, one of the questions you have is alignment. Are they doing things in alignment with what our needs are? And so one of our needs are obviously we have outside consultants, we have a lot of staff. Do the things they do support reduction in cost or improvement in speed are the results we're looking for? For example, it's been very challenging to get what the outline of an MSR really needs to be. And a lot of people have gone through this work. Are these agencies able to give us a hand with that? Can they hand us documents that give us guidance? So I guess I look at it as alignment issues and can in one side of one piece of paper, can you issue the vision and mission for what you would like to have from them? So before we spend money, which also means we spend our own staff time, which is probably more expensive than the money, how do you know when you're happy? I guess is my question.
Thank you, Commissioner Drake. Seeing no further discussion on this item, that was an informational item. Let's go ahead and move on to item number 8, which is the Executive Officer Report.
Nothing to report on my end.
Are there any commissioner announcements or requests for future items? Commissioner Desmond, and then we'll go to Vice Chair Willis.
Well, I'd just like to say at this end of the table here, it is Joe McKenzie's birthday and my birthday today. And
Oh, wow.
I can't speak for her, but there's no place I'd rather be. Thank you.
Happy birthday to both of you. Vice Chair Willis.
I would like to hopefully get on the next agenda a discussion about annexation fees, particularly, in this case, it's Palma Valley Community Services District that they need to annex some islands. And I heard what the fee was. It kind of took me back for if they have a much smaller budget. I would like to have an open discussion about maybe either waiving the fee or doing some kind of sliding scale to help them afford that cost. So I like that. I would like to see that on the next agenda.
Thank you, Vice Chair Willis. Do we have the capacity to incorporate that into next month's agenda, or could you follow up with Vice Chair Willis on that request?
Yes, and just for the benefit of the commission, so Palma Valley CSD has been communicating to staff about proceeding with a jurisdictional change to kind of fill in their boundary. And as I've discussed with Vice Chair Willis, it's certainly an option that the commission, not staff, consider a waiver or a reduction. But the first step is for their board to actually ask for the waiver or reduction. So if they are to do that before our next meeting, we'll certainly provide that on the agenda.
Thank you, Ken.
Can I just make one comment there? So would that be, then we would be giving away our staff time for free? Because that's, the fees are directly related to what our staff is doing. Is that correct?
Correct. So it's a decision of the commission as to whether you want to subsidize the request.
So that's why I say a waiver or a possible reduction. Maybe it would be a reduction, so we do recoup some of our costs. I just wanted to make it a main point of discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, we just also have to consider the ripple effect of everybody thinking that the fees are too high and everybody asking for this. And this is staff time directly. It's not like, anyway, we have that discussion.
All right, thank you both. Should that request be made, we will look forward to a robust discussion. All right, well, with that and on those birthday notes, that brings us to the end of our agenda, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.